So we're back with Smarter Markets at IETA's North America Climate Summit 2025, and very fortunate to be joined by Sandeep Roy Choudhury, co-founder and director of VNV, Value Network Ventures. Great to see you again, Sandeep.
Great to see you again, David, yes.
So we've been taking this opportunity to catch up with friends, guests of a podcast that we've had on before and just see what you've been up to. So I'm curious, what have you been working on over the past year?
I mean, developing projects, of course. And what we've been working on is to scale up project development. Scale up, why? Because a lot of our markets are tapered towards net zero goals. Okay. And a lot of the net zero goals hit towards 2040, 45. So the projects need to be on the ground quickly. Otherwise, we wouldn't have much credits left to sell at that point of time. So yes, it's been a lot of work around scaling up existing pipeline. That's what we've been working on, yes.
And is the nature of the projects changing, or is it more the number and extent of them?
I think the number and extent of them. I think we spent a lot of time, as VNV, if I have to speak for just VNV's work, we spent almost 7 years consolidating the pipeline. I think now we're in a position where we need to really quickly scale up, and that's what's keeping us busy the last 18 months or so. Yeah.
Yeah. And what are the biggest challenges you're facing in scaling up?
Methodological changes. They're extremely, disruptive, if I may use that word. So you plan with a certain kind of rule and standard, and then suddenly everything changes. And I think the world could do with less number of earthquakes, or is what I call them these days, where you're suddenly hit by something that you did not see coming, and they kind of take the financial models and everything out for a tizzy. Our kind of work needs certainty, which we do not have anymore. As much as you can only build in that much risk management. At some point, I think that's been a challenge. Yes, there were methodological changes.
And for people who aren't familiar, what's kind of the average lifespan of one of your projects?
Anything in the range of 25 to 40 years. So, yeah. So when things change and a lot of capital is deployed upfront, so you can imagine what it does to the financial models, what it does to contracting, what it does, and more importantly, what it does to people that work on the ground, because that is something that we have to take full responsibility for, regardless of all the other changes. I mean, it's not for them to understand a change in baseline scenario. It's not for them to understand a change in reference regions, for example. So I think that's the big challenge here. Yes.
Okay. And what do you think in terms of, there's been a big movement towards compliance markets. So compliance markets growing globally as corporations have stepped back a bit from some of the net zero approaches they took a few years ago. How does that change the opportunities that you face having more compliance markets?
Yes, it is a bit of a challenge as well. Firstly, I think I would want to touch upon the challenges. In a compliance market, a ton is a ton. And I think that is a challenge because we have different capital stacking for different kinds of projects. And I don't think our compliance market is it's a standard price, but that's the challenge. The opportunity is for us, we want to make our credits fungible to a voluntary net zero versus, it could be a compliance scheme as well, right? So I think there is an opportunity there, given that there is a dearth of buyers in the voluntary space right now. I think a lot of corporates are sitting on the fence, which is not great for the markets. And I think a compliance regime will push those corporates off their fences. And I think that's great for the market. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. It is a challenge, but I think it could be an opportunity as well. And that world is coming as we speak, which is great, I think.
And I know you stay very busy during Climate Week at this conference and the many others happening around the city. I was curious, what are kind of the big ideas that you're hearing? Like, where's the conversation at right now? And maybe where do you wish the conversation was?
I think we're at a good place right now because I think till last year, and this was one of our personal, as VNV, I think of how you can blend in different financing mechanisms. And I think there was a lot of talk till last year. And this year, what I see is a lot of actionable frameworks / actual projects that could be worked on. And I think that's a great thing. Whatever I've seen over the last 2.5 days It's been actual practical solutions, which is a big departure from what used to be mostly theoretical discussions, really. So,
And I'd like to dig a little deeper and maybe put you on the spot, because a lot of the folks we talk to, they'll talk about um, some of the improvements trying to make in standards, accounting frameworks, legal frameworks, digitalization, bringing more technologies in, all which are good things. I'm curious, what's your assessment of it from the project developer perspective when you look at all these initiatives?
loaded question, David. But for me, I think we need to not fall into the trap of perfection stifling action. And I think that's something that we need to keep an eye out on, because at the end of the day, we are in a climate crisis. We need project development and for it to scale, not from developers like us, but across the world and across different countries. We need to democratize project development. That cannot happen unless you are a continuous improvement program. You will improve as you go. Nothing is perfect, and we cannot wait for action till we get that perfect solution. And I think that's something that I see as well. If you ask me over the last 2 days, is I think there's so much of discussions around how we need to get this to be the most perfect solution, and I don't think we'll ever be there. I worry that that will stall action. And that, for me, I think we need to simplify. We need to be practical about what we think about other solutions out there.
And if you could have your wish list of, changes that could be made that would make project development uh, more straightforward, easier to scale projects, what would be at the top of that list?
One of the big ticket items, and this is something that we've been discussing with the standards also, is no knee-jerk retroactive actions, because there was a capital deployment basis, the rule of the day. You can't come in 5 years later and say, guys, sorry, that was not the rule anymore. I mean, that is not the rule anymore, and it applies from the time you started the project, and it's detrimental. What it does is it increases the risk profile of projects, which is not what we want right now. We want everybody to deploy capital as soon as they can, and this kind of uncertainty is not good for the markets. So what is my wish list is, number one, can we agree on a path forward and say that this is going to the path forward for today? What happens tomorrow? And I'm all in for improvement. We will learn. What we knew 10 years back is not what we know today. Take it point forestry. I mean, when I started out in my career, it was the data back in the day. Today, it's a completely different thing. But you cannot apply that rule to 2012, today's rule to 2012. And that is something that I think is one of my big wish lists. And I hope policymakers across the room and across this event kind of understand the ramifications of these rules and what it does.
And when you look around, what do you see as like the most important development in the carbon markets today?
The most important, I mean, we agreed on something great last COP, right? I mean, and I think now what we really, the good part is a lot of host country governments are getting their act together in terms of Article 6. And I think Article 6 is important, and not just for the voluntary net zero space. I mean, also for that, actually, if I may take that back, but for the larger carbon market space. And what I see over the last 1 year that has developed is a lot of host countries have really, really taken carbon markets very seriously. And that is very good, I think, yes.
And maybe I'd love to end with a note of optimism to kind of pile onto that one. But I always love, because you're working, at the project level. When you see what's happening with the capital being deployed, with the projects going forward, what gives you optimism?
Okay, so what gives me optimism is, I think we had a very tumultuous period, right, between 23 and 24 with various things. I think finally the market's realizing that we're getting the act together. I think there's a lot more confidence in the markets that we saw about 24 months back. And that is a very good thing. I mean, we have more businesses in this room right now than we did last year and the year before, which is a great thing. And there are advanced commitments being made, which are really pioneering and leadership positions that businesses are taking. And I do hope, if you ask me about the wish list, for more businesses to take that leadership position, because that will increase the momentum. And I do see momentum now building up again. And hopefully this carries on, yes.
Fantastic. I know it's a busy week for you. Thanks for making some time for us during it.
Always
Great
a
to see you,
pleasure,
Sandeep.
David. Thanks.